Hi guys, JT here. Today we bring you some information on the Humble Heroines Encore bundle of December 2023. To help you answer the question, should you buy it? By using the link provided in the description below, not only will you gain access to this bundle, but you also have the opportunity to support this channel. Your support would mean the world to me, and I genuinely appreciate it. Anyway, let's get into this. At number 1, we have Control Ultimate Edition, a science fiction action game. The game follows the story of Jessie Faden, who discovers she has supernatural abilities and becomes a director of the Federal Bureau of Control, FBC, a secret government agency tasked with investigating paranormal phenomena. One of the most impressive aspects of Control is its gameplay mechanics. The game features a mix of exploration, puzzle solving, and combat, with players able to use a variety of telekinetic powers and firearms to defeat enemies and overcome obstacles. The game's world is also highly interactive, with players able to use their telekinetic powers to move objects and create new paths through the game's environment. The game's story is also impressive, with a mix of science fiction and horror elements. Jessie's journey takes her through a variety of different locations within the FBC's headquarters, known as the Oldest House, each of its own secrets and dangers. The game's use of lore and documents scattered throughout the game world also adds to the story, allowing players to learn more about the game's world and its characters. Control Ultimate Edition includes all of the game's previously released DLC content, including the excellent Alan Wake expansion, which ties the game's story into the broader Remedy Entertainment universe. The Ultimate Edition also includes improved graphics and performance, making it a definitive version of the game. However, the game does have some flaws. The game's difficulty can be uneven at times, with some encounters feeling frustratingly difficult while others are a breeze. The game's story can also be confusing at times, with some plot points feeling underdeveloped or rushed. Control Ultimate Edition is a substantial game, with a main story that can take around 15 to 20 hours to complete. The game's DLC content also adds several hours of additional gameplay, making it a great value for fans of action and science fiction games. In conclusion, Control Ultimate Edition is an excellent science fiction action game that offers a unique and immersive gameplay experience. While the game may have some flaws in its difficulty and story, the game's strengths more than make up for it. If you're a fan of action games or are looking for a unique and immersive world to explore, Control Ultimate Edition is definitely worth checking out. At number 2 we have Syberia, The World Before, a point-and-click adventure game in the 4th installment in the Syberia series. You play as 2 different characters, across 2 different times, Kate Walker in 2005, and Dana Rose in 1937. Kate Walker has been imprisoned in the salt mines following the events of Syberia 3, and has a painting of Dana, a young pianist, in 1937. The thing is, Dana looks exactly like Kate. Obsessed with finding out who the girl in the painting was, she ventures to Switzerland. Both Kate's and Dana's stories are intriguing, especially Dana's, as she has to deal with the threat of what essentially is the Nazis during the war. The puzzles allow you to be invested in both characters. Everything you do will require a button prompt or press, pulling you into every task, from puzzles to catching a tram or even ringing a doorbell. Solving some of the game's trickier puzzles makes you feel pretty smart. The game gives you plenty of brain teasers within a simple object. In saying that, they aren't overly difficult, but will keep you on your toes and invested in solving them. Other than that, you'll be investigating a range of items like documents and paintings, opening drawers, interacting with the world, and talking to people. There's much attention to detail in the environment that will remind you of a painting. The world is similar to what we have, but the steampunk-like setting makes it feel like an alternative version of our world that is both captivating and engaging. One potential drawback is its slow pacing. The game takes its time with its story and puzzles, and some players may find the pace too slow. Overall, Syberia The World Before is an excellent adventure game that fans of the genre should definitely check out. It's a compelling story, challenging puzzles, and a beautiful world. At number 3 we have Praey for the Gods, an action-adventure game. The game takes place in a frozen world where players take on the role of a lone hero who must explore the land and defeat powerful gods in order to restore balance to the world. The game's story is intriguing, with a mix of mythology and survival elements. The game's use of environmental storytelling and hidden lore adds depth to the story, allowing players to learn more about the game's world and its characters. Dialogue is minimal, with most of the story being told through gameplay and exploration. Combat is satisfying with a mix of melee and ranged attacks. Stamina management and dodge mechanics adds depth to the combat, making each fight feel strategic and intense. Boss battles are also challenging and require careful observation and critical thinking to murder them. Survival mechanics further add to the challenge, with players needing to manage their hunger and body temperature in order to survive in the harsh environment. The game's use of climbing and exploration mechanics also adds to the sense of adventure and discovery. However, the game's pacing can be slow at times, with some sections feeling overly long or repetitive. The story can also be confusing at times, with some plot points feeling underdeveloped or unclear. Praey for the Gods is a substantial game, with a main story that can take around 10 to 15 hours to complete. The game's exploration and side quests also offer several hours of additional gameplay. In conclusion, Praey for the Gods is a great game that offers a unique and immersive gameplay experience. If you're a fan of action-adventure games or are looking for a challenging and immersive world to explore, This game is definitely worth checking out. And number 4 we have Hellblade, Senua's Sacrifice, an action-adventure game. The game follows the journey of Senua, a young Celtic warrior who must travel to the Norse underworld to rescue the soul of her dead lover. The visuals are stunning with a mix of realistic graphics and surreal imagery. The environments are highly detailed with each location feeling distinct and memorable. The use of sound design also adds to the immersive experience, with whispers and voices constantly whispering in Senua's ear. The story is powerful and emotional, dealing with themes of loss, trauma, and mental illness. The use of symbolism and mythology adds depth to the story, allowing players to learn more about Senua's past and her struggles. Narration and voice acting are also top-notch, with Senua's internal dialogue being a major highlight. Combat is simple, yet effective, with a mix of melee attacks and dodges. Focus allows players to slow down time and execute powerful attacks, adding depth to the combat. Boss battles are also challenging, and require careful observation and critical thinking to defeat. Puzzles are challenging, and require players to pay attention to their surroundings and use their wits to solve them. The use of environmental puzzles and illusions adds variety to the gameplay, making each puzzle feel distinct and memorable. However, the game's pacing can be slow at times. The game's combat and puzzles can also feel somewhat limited, with players needing to repeat the same actions multiple times. Hellblade: Senua's Sacrifice is a relatively short game, with a main story that can be completed in around 6 to 8 hours. However, the game's emotional impact and unique gameplay make it a worthwhile experience. In conclusion, Hellblade: Senua's Sacrifice is a powerful and emotional game that offers a unique and immersive gameplay experience. If you're a fan of action-adventure games or are looking for a thought-provoking and emotional experience, Hellblade: Senua's Sacrifice is definitely worth checking out. And number 5 we have Batora, Lost Haven, an action RPG game. The game follows the story of Evriel, a young girl picked by the gods to save the earth. The story is kinda flat with characters acting in non-logical ways. At least the characters are well fleshed out with voice acting, even though the degree of motivation to actually care about what's important is questionable. Each level is linear with some backtracking and dead ends with chests. You run from objective to objective, murdering everything that stands in your way, make binary choices, solve simplistic puzzles, and murder some more. The combat system is engaging and dynamic, with a mix of melee and ranged attacks, using the polarity swap mechanic that changes your form. Each form has a dodge and 3 ability cooldowns. Puzzles usually involve the occasional switches that you have to flip to open paths. It is definitely not the focus of the game. The upgrade system is unique in a way that you don't have a skill tree, but you can equip runes that you can collect. To equip them, you'll need either levels or Defender or Conqueror points gained from your moral choices. Yes, this is a multiple ending kind of game. However, Batora Lost Haven is a relatively short game with a main story that can be completed in around 10 to 12 hours. Replayability comes from its multiple endings and the ability to replay the game with different runes based on your choices. In conclusion, Batora Lost Haven is a solid action RPG with engaging combat and impressive visuals. If you're a fan of action RPGs or are looking for a game with a unique leveling system and world, Batora Lost Haven is definitely worth checking out. And number 6 we have Sable, a visually stunning indie adventure game. The game's unique art style, inspired by comic book artist Mobius, creates a breathtaking open-world exploration experience that is both immersive and captivating. Players take on the role of Sable, a young girl on a journey of self-discovery in a mysterious desert world. The game is about exploration, with players free to roam around the vast and beautiful world, discovering secrets and meeting different characters along the way. One of the most notable features of Sable is its music. The atmospheric and ethereal soundtrack fits perfectly with the game's visuals, creating a sense of wonder and tranquility that immerses players in the game's world. The game's mechanics are simple, with players using a glider to traverse the open world and completing quests for different characters. The gliding mechanics are smooth and responsive, making traversal a joy. There's a strong emphasis on puzzle solving, with players using their wits and abilities to solve various challenges scattered throughout the world. The story is minimalistic, with players piecing together the narrative through the different characters that they meet and the world around them. The focus is on the experience of exploration and the emotions it evokes, rather than a traditional narrative structure. One of the game's minor drawbacks is that it can feel somewhat repetitive at times, with players completing similar quests and challenges throughout the game. The open world can also feel somewhat sparse with a lack of variety in the environment and areas to explore. Sable is a relatively short game, with a main story that can be completed in around 8 to 10 hours. However, replayability comes from its open world and the ability to discover new secrets and areas each time players revisit the game. In conclusion, Sable is an impressive indie adventure game that is sure to captivate players with its breathtaking visuals, immersive music, and sense of wonder. If you're a fan of exploration games or are looking for a game that evokes a sense of tranquility and wonder, Sable is definitely worth checking out. And number 7 we have Dreamscaper, an action RPG with roguelite elements. The game's premise revolves around the main character, Cassidy, who battles her inner demons through a series of dreams, each of their own unique challenges and enemies. The game's art style is visually striking with a vibrant and colorful palette that creates a distinct dreamlike atmosphere. You take on the role of Cassidy, exploring the various dreamscapes and battling enemies using a combination of melee and ranged attacks. Combat is smooth and responsive, with players able to execute a variety of combos and abilities. Difficulty ramps up as players progress through the different dreamscapes, with each new level presenting new challenges and enemies to overcome. One of the game's most unique features is its daytime sequences, where players can interact with different characters in Cassidy's waking life. These sequences allow players to develop Cassidy's relationships and acquire new abilities and items that can aid them in their dream battles. Dreamscaper's roguelike elements come in the form of procedurally generated levels, and permadeath. Each run through the game is unique with different layouts and enemy placement, making each playthrough feel fresh and unpredictable. However, the permadeath mechanic can be frustrating, as players must start from the beginning each time they die, losing all progress and items acquired in previous runs. The story is woven into the dreamscapes and is revealed through various interactions and cutscenes. While the story is not the game's primary focus, it adds depth and context to Cassidy's struggles and motivations. One of the game's minor drawbacks is limited enemy variety. While the enemies are well designed and challenging, players may start to feel repetition in later levels. The game's bosses, however, are a highlight, with unique mechanics and design to provide a satisfying challenge. Dreamscaper provides a decent amount of content, with each playthrough taking around 6 to 8 hours to complete. The game's replayability comes from its roguelike elements, with players able to try different builds and strategies with each new run. In conclusion, Dreamscaper is a visually striking and engaging action RPG with roguelike elements. While the permadeath mechanic can be frustrating at times, the game's procedural generation and unique features make each playthrough feel fresh and exciting. If you're a fan of action RPGs or roguelites, Dreamscaper is definitely worth checking out. And number 8 we have Call of the Sea, a first-person puzzle adventure game. The game is set on a mysterious island in the 1930s and follows the story of a woman named Nora as she searches for her missing husband. The game's art style is beautiful with vibrant colors and detailed environments that create a sense of wonder and intrigue. You play as Nora, exploring the island and solving puzzles to uncover the secrets of the island and the disappearance of your husband. The puzzles range from simple logic puzzles to more complex challenges that require players to pay close attention to their surroundings and make use of Nora's abilities. One of the game's strengths is its narrative, which is woven into the gameplay and puzzles. As players progress through the island and solve puzzles, they uncover more about Nora's backstory and the mysterious history of the island itself. The game's pacing is excellent, with each new puzzle or discovery adding to the overall sense of mystery and intrigue. Call of the Sea also features a diverse cast of characters, with Nora being a well-developed and likable protagonist. The voice acting is top-notch, with each character's performance adding depth and nuance to their respective roles. The game's main drawback is its relatively short length. With only 6 to 8 hours of gameplay, some players may find that the game's puzzles are not challenging enough, or the narrative ends too abruptly. However, the game's pacing and story makes up for its brevity, creating a memorable and engaging experience. The game's puzzles are well designed, and the narrative is captivating, making it a game that is easy to recommend to fans of puzzle adventure games. In conclusion, Call of the Sea is a beautifully crafted puzzle adventure game, with a compelling narrative and engaging gameplay. If you're a fan of puzzle adventure games or simply looking for an immersive and well-crafted narrative experience, Call of the Sea is definitely worth checking out. And that's all for this bundle. This bundle is awesome with some really good action and adventure games filled with much story and lore, and I would highly recommend it. Anyway, don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video.